All right, so before I begin this video is not monetized or for monetization purposes. I just do it for enjoyment and because I interact with various people in the chess community. And I'm not an expert in chess. I don't have enough study in the theory, and I haven't learned enough of it. So I haven't been playing a terribly long time either. I quit for a very, very long time after playing just a little bit, and I came back, um, what, maybe 5 months ago or something. I don't know. I didn't play for a long time. I completely forgot the game, forgot the rules, everything. Had to learn everything again. Um, so yeah. So this video is going to be on how to beat Nelson. I couldn't really find anything online that shows a video of how to beat him that isn't just something like, okay, play this, do this move, and then he'll do this, then do this, or they have some vague advice like try to punish his queen. What does punish even mean? Like what? They have an overly defensive play, and like you just come with like this big attack, or what? You make him open up his king side because of how he uses his queen and does certain things. Like what? What? Like it wasn't helpful at all. Um, in any real way or any instructive way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna explain what I know of the theory that I used to beat him. Though I wasn't really using enough theory. Um, I I made a lot of rushed impulsive moves, and I paid for that dearly. And I'll show you what I'm talking about, because we're going to answer the question: did I even play a good game? Like, was this a legit Nelson? I mean, going from the elos, yeah, it was pretty legit Nelson. I mean, he went above his Glico. Right here, the elo numbers. His Glico is a 1300. His Glico ranges from it's called a 1454 to 3300. I played as black, and I bottomed out at an 1880. So yeah, I played a good game. I didn't play an excellent or amazing game. And well, you want proof? Well, here. So domination's only 48%, which is just significantly better than 37%. But I would say in chess, all you need to do is to significantly outplay your opponent by just enough. You don't have to try to overdo it and stuff, because what can happen is things can look too disfavorable, and you could you you could end up start making you could get distracted by that and end up making bad moves, which could have happened to me in this game, because for a while, and as you can see from this bar over here, he was dominating for quite a bit. And don't worry, I'm about to go into the whole game. So just hang on, just hang on. Complexity, I mean, mine was higher than his, but it was a moderate complexity. That's not really good. Efficient mobility high, that's good, but I don't know if 41% is good. And narrowness moderate, that's very good. That's very good. Uh, he he played more narrow than I did, though it can be actually no, I take that back. The narrowness is rather inconsequential. Peace activity extreme, very important. Look at this. Look at this. 89% peace activity. Yeah, I made several sacrifices. One to get a advantage in material, and one to just open up lanes, get some peace activity, because I was getting overdeveloped and my position was getting congested. So I looked for sacrifices on the safe side away from my king, and other safe sacrifices that were dependent on context. The opponent just didn't have enough material to win. So I believe exchange tendency moderate. This is very bad. You should. This shows where a lot of mistakes I made. There were times where I straight up gave away pieces where I shouldn't have. So some of my sacrifices weren't very good. They let me outplay my opponent, but I could have. But in terms of theory and stuff, and what it really means to play, um, I I didn't at all. There was um just less web pushing than I normally do. I didn't exactly, so I didn't play as well as I could have. Okay. And yeah, 6 mistakes, 2 blunders, 9 dubious moves. I don't trust the chess.com computer saying that, but I trust the Stockfish 16 on Lucas saying that, because chess.com computer is basically a casino. And it says a fairly similar thing. 1 great move. I don't understand. That's, I mean, and the criteria for getting greats is not exactly very good. 7 good moves, which means that you could have picked a better move. 7 accuracies, 2 mistakes, 2 misses. That's I don't think I agree with the misses there, because I knew exactly what the hell I was doing. Though, no, I take that back. My memory is just going bad. So yeah, we'll just go through the moves. See if I can flip the board. Can I flip the board? I believe so. Yes. Okay. So Nelson is playing as white. I'm playing black here, and the first thing he does is this shit. So this, I'm not shitting on pawn on the king's pawn, but theoretically it is flawed. Look, he just weakened his king side from the get, and according to like the top computer analysis, pawn d4 is stronger by a significant margin. It's just that with pawn e4, I think the bot just wanted like a more comfortable looking game, where they could focus on less things at once. Pawn d4 leads to some real chaos. It really does. I learned. So yeah, I respond with, what do you think? Knight c6. Why? Well, check this out. Here's some theory for you. Because we're in the first few moves of the game, I want to control the center of the board, right? Reason being is if I try one of the rims, I'm leaving most of the space for the opponent. I'm basically giving my opponent a tempo, or which is time measured in moves, to control the center and the other rim of the board. So trying to control the rim is a very bad idea. Though a lot of players will still try to play at the rim, which is disruptive and can really bring the game down into like a really shitty game that starts out at the rims and has a whole bunch of crazy nonsense, and then you have to figure out the game in terms of crazy nonsense, like materialist exchanges and stuff like that, and wild attacks and memorized lines. Basically lots of stuff that you really shouldn't be doing. Just weak plays that just aren't good. So knight c6, still controlling the center. I'm not allowing him to push his pawn up to disrupt me and stuff, because I still want my positions to be good. Now this isn't a one and done though, and stuff. Moves are always connected to something else. Your pieces should be as connected as possible. My knight has 2 outposts right here. I have a pawn here protecting this knight, a pawn here protecting this knight, and stuff. And I'm not taking, yeah. Here from experience, I'm anticipating this move too. I'm like kind of thinking to myself, okay, he's most likely going to do queen h5. The computer also notices that this is a very dumb move. But I don't let it distract me. What I'm thinking to myself here is okay, all I need to do is outplay him and stuff. He's not playing for the center really right now. He's just getting the fifth rank, and then what? Like you know, he's kind of threatening my king side here. You know, he could lose his queen just for doing that. He could, you know, this could be a queen giveaway. Though this is Nelson, he's going to disrupt with this queen and harass with this queen and then draw it back and stuff. He's going to do everything to save his queen. But even though he gives away his queen, he's going to play like a 1800, 1900, and try to checkmate you. He's going to quote unquote pressure you to weaken your king side to do that, because he doesn't think that you're thinking about, you know, what the opponent's going to do and what moves are there and possibilities are there. Possibilities are very important, because in those possibilities you see where you're strong and your opponent's weak. So that lets you think about what to do and what not to do. Here, so like I was saying, what I was thinking is, okay, I'm just going to stay focused on the center because I just need to outplay him. I'm still putting pressure on this pawn here. This pawn is hung at this point. He's not even supporting his pawn in any way. It's also attacking, or attacking the queen, threatening the queen, whatever you want to call it, is essentially the same thing. Because I'm not thinking I want to capture his queen. I just want to make him even weaker than he already is. He basically wasted 2 turns already. So he's got 2 turns of flawed moves. I got 2 turns of some pretty solid moves right here. And now, because we're in the first beginning moves, I'm not thinking about combinations or anything like that. I'm just setting it up so I can, so I can dominate my opponent. That's it. So he brings his queen back. He's finally supporting his pawn, threatening to take my knight, but it's not really a good threat. It's really not. Because if he loses that queen, then wow, that's just more for me anyway. He's losing he's losing his attack power and material doing this. Your queen's like what, 20, 30% of your attack power from the get. Yeah, that's very decisive on its own. So I push the pawn here. Now bishops on a long diagonal are very strong. Away from the board, human opponents often miss the bishop at the rim, just kind of beaming all the way down the board. And yeah, this is giving me all of those squares. I'm not trying to push up this knight, for the simple fact that let's say, so what I'm noticing here is that this isn't necessarily the best move. No, sorry, yeah, I wouldn't try to push up that knight because I wouldn't have an outpost for the knight anyway. And this still gives me development. I can, from here, I'm thinking that I'm going to be getting tempo to control these 2 files right here with the bishop. Not necessarily the best idea, but what I want to do is I want to slow him. I want to keep him slow, basically, because his development is slow, which is costing him. It's costing him. You can develop fast and then still have a really good middle game. Not that I necessarily had a good middle game here, but I did. And okay, so he responds with a pawn d3. So he just cut off his bishop right there, doing that. He's hurting his own development. This is kind of a cocky move. He probably sees that I could outpost my knight and just doesn't see anything else. He should be focusing on developing his knight and improving his queen. That would just give him a much better position. So over here, I'm basically making more room for myself to improve the position for my pieces by checking him. That's really all I was doing here. Like I said before, I wasn't really playing very well. Wasn't thinking about my candidates and the possibilities and stuff. I should be thinking about what my opponent would do. But all I'm seeing is that my opponent's going to do very bad in the next, what, 2, 3 moves. So I'm, I'm just hammering down and kicking him while he's down. And hey, my bishop's supported by the knight anyway, so it's considered a safe way of doing this. Though, my king side is open at this point from the opening, which is very telling. So I really have to watch my ass and play accurately at this point, or else this is gonna get ugly very fucking quick. Because, I have all this opening going to the king. The reason being is this bishop is on a very defensive position. It's on a long diagonal porting towards my king side, right? But you have all of these queenside pawns here that can kick my bishop. My bishop can easily get kicked, though he has to do a weak move to do that. So, it doesn't really disfavor me too much, but yeah, he will kick my bishop and force it back. And then all I really did was just get a 1-move advantage. I didn't do that much. Over here, my pieces are fairly connected too, so I'm not worried about planning, really, though I should have planned better. Okay, and exactly what happens, my bishop gets kicked. Boink. Though I didn't think I think I should have just brought it back here. That would have been the better idea. Because if I'm over here, I'm kind of a dead duck in the water, just preventing these pawns from going up. It's a little bit of a distracted play, though. We're gonna see what the computer thinks of this. Yeah, it's just slightly better according to the computer. But I was thinking to castle to improve my king side because I saw my king side weakness. King side safety is one of the key aspects of evaluating, whether you're playing well or not, like and deciding who's winning and who's safe and who's dominating and the quality of a move. So I'm thinking to improve my king at this point with a castle towards the king side, or a short castle. And then he and okay, this is funny. So over here, there's some issues. He doesn't really do anything for his pawn structure here. He's giving himself a fianchetto with his bishop when he already has this long diagonal over here. It's a lot of wishful thinking. My bishop's blocking his bishop. It's an equivalent exchange. Doesn't hurt me. It just doesn't hurt me because he could develop that knight to the rim, and which just fucks him up even more. Knights. Here's theory for you. Knights on the rim are dim. Okay. They don't control as many squares, and he's on the knight under the rim going towards the queen side. That's not really a place to try to push an attacking sequence. And I'll flip the board so you can see that. If this was, I'm sorry, I keep looking at this pawn and laughing. Yeah. And going back to his pawn structure again, I mean, he's cut off his knight. His knight has to go to the center square. It's not the best center square. It's just less shitty. It's just a less shitty place for the knight. He's playing this pawn at the rim over here, which is at his where his queen side was. Normally, you would only do this for a sacrifice to get mobility. Just thinking about like the patterns of chess, or you would do this. Because you want to promote, or you would do this because for another reason I'm forgetting right now. I just had the reason in my head. I can't speak it anymore. But yeah, this is distracting. He's just wasting his time. He should be evaluating who's winning at the center and what he needs to do. The computer should start evaluating its candidates better at this point. But he's not. Over here, the computer says this is wrong. Well, yeah, I needed to improve my bishop. I wasn't going to put it back over here because it makes my king side slow. And yeah, over here I'm thinking develop my bishop, keep this queen trapped. I want to pressure him, squeeze him, make him just suffocate him and stuff, and just leave him with nothing. Because right now he doesn't really have that many moves. He has what? King right here to the center square for what? To cut off his bishop. King over here at the rim for what? To get taken by my bishop. What? And then, or maybe he could play his bishop to the rim here with my mouses at a3. At that same score where you can put the knight and what? So my bishop can take it, and the balanced material favors me. Balance of material is very decisive. It's one of the key cofactors, but it's not going to make or break a game. If you focus so much on materialist position making, well, you don't get very far. You're capping at around a 1400 elo playing strength if we're gonna factor out a bunch of stuff and relate elo to playing strength. So this is the developing move. I'm simply aware we're still in the opening at move 6. I'm concerned with this weakness in my king side over here, my mouses, and with the fact that I can't really push my knight up. I could be giving that knight away for no reason. It's a freaking knight. It's a knight. It's a very fast piece, and it does amazing things. It goes over other pieces. It's a very fast, powerful piece. You can't move this knight. It's really not. Let's say if I were to move this knight to d5 over here and stuff, he takes with this pawn. That pawn is supported by the queen over here while it's pointing at this knight over here. Now he's controlling me. In a respect, he's getting control over me. It's not good enough. Over here, I know I'm with this move to pawn to d6. I know I'm playing for the center. My other options are pretty distracted at this point. It's building towards something else, which makes everything I'm building towards a complete waste of time. And your rate of improvement and your piece mobility and stuff is very important. So you don't want to do distracting stuff like that, like playing one thing over there when you're trying to set up. No, you only do that during lockups, like when your center's locked up, when there's really no good moves in the center, and then you have to go to the more decisive rim, start planning at the rim, really thinking a little bit more deep. The rims are more difficult to play in, honestly, sometimes. So develops his bishop, hoping to kick around my knight. Maybe he thinks I'm gonna put my queen to f6, and then he could take with his queen, and then I take with the pawns, and then I end up with the shitty position for myself. I have an even weaker king side, and then I have doubled pawns, meaning with the pawn at f6 and a pawn at f7, and with an open rank to the king, making my king side even weaker just on that. No, that's very crippling. There's no fucking way I'm gonna do that. Instead, I'm gonna do this, saying, okay, you're gonna do this for me, make my side of the board disastrous. Well, I'm gonna take your queen. So you better think twice. That's what I'm saying here. And my knight's supporting this bishop too. So I could very well, I'm just making it worse for him here. But of course, he ends up taking my knight with his bishop. At this point, I'm not worried when this happens because I've got his queen. The computer considers this the wrong move. It's not the wrong move. It's really not. It's really not. That's a big exchange of material there. That favors me. It's not the wrong move. Plus, I can take the center pawn too. Though that's really not going to happen. Instead, he's going to be weakening his king side. This is part of his king side pawns right here. So he's going to stack his pawns. In terms of theory, stacked pawns are a bad thing. You shouldn't be stacking your pawns. when you can certainly avoid it. If you're left with the only move is stacking your pawns, you need to think about the possible lines of movement better. And he takes the knight queen. And at this point, I guess the computer is evaluating the game for white here, though I didn't have this bar during the game, but I knew I was doing better. Though I should have thought ahead more. Otherwise, I could have avoided losing my queen. Over here, I'm activating my rook towards the center, supporting this pawn more, and so I'm improving my center this early in the game. I've taken away his queen. Over here, I'm doing pretty good still. I'm still doing better than white, even though the game's ruling in favor of white right now. This is just because this is just a centipawn meter. That's the thing. That's what you have to remember. This is just centipawns right here. It's not really telling you who has the higher probability of winning. Takes this pawn. He's got stacked pawns here. All he has is this bishop, which has to fianchetto and do quite a bit of work to do something. Honestly, that bishop needs many moves to really do anything, because it would, once it fianchettos, it's pointing at nothing. It's going to be pointing at c8, and this what, it could just get eaten by that rook, which already took a piece. So that rook's getting even better exchanges. Yeah, he's not doing much for himself here. He's really not. The computer should have analyzed it better. Like he's still got this the move to develop the knight to the center. That would have been a very good move. That would have locked up the center and forced me to think a little bit harder. But he didn't do that. Okay, short castle. Computer doesn't rate this very highly. Well, I rate having a safe kingside very highly because it's chess. Okay, and mate can happen at many phases of the game, and there's more than 1,000 possible mates, in the normal scenarios. So he's keeping his king weak here, and he's cutting off his knight's best move, honestly. So he could have used a cheaper, safer way of controlling the center, and he's mostly just playing defensively now, and he's not thinking of opening his position. He's not. He's still not getting it. He's not getting it. This computer isn't really playing chess. Over here, I think that bishop already took some material, so this just makes it even better. Over here, it's a safe square for my bishop. I knew I can get a big exchange of material with this bishop and stuff, because my plan was to break Nelson. He's usually slow in the development and does makes positional blunders with his queen and stuff, and I wanted to punish him with that, with developing my position faster than his, and taking away enough of his good material to really make a painful ending for him, which I did. I made the ending very painful for him. And I know it's a bot, but Nelson's kind of a menace in the chess community. Everybody hates him. So, and we're pretty well into the video now. So what have we done here? We talked about making sure to control the center, exchanges of material that favor position. We talked about rate of improvements. We talked about king safety. It's basically giving criteria for evaluating plans and ideas and moves. And over here, he's just essentially doing the same thing with this king. I think the computer just wanted to control more squares that weren't occupied. I don't know what he anticipates, because my bishop is not going to any of these going to this light square here, and it's not going here. He probably anticipated I was going to pats by doing bishop e1, which is a totally innocuous move. It's just hanging the bishop in a dangerous square. It's giving away the bishop, and that's not good. He's giving away a very decisive thing in chess, which is material advantage. So with this time, instead of taking the knight, I keep pressure on the knight, which is interesting. I probably should have taken. I probably didn't want to give away the bishop because I was kind of low in material at this point, a little bit gassed. That would have been an accuracy actually grossly in favor of white according to this computer, and the computer might actually be right there. Yes, I have a long defensive diagonal for the bishops. What am I doing here? Interesting. Probably just still controlling the center. That's it. I mean, I'm still controlling the center at this point, so there's that. But this bishop is hung, and even though it's threatening this knight here, that's basically giving away the bishop to cripple the opponent and leaving me with a knight and two rooks as main pieces. And then, kind of comes down to a pawn game up against a knight and two rooks. It's not very domineering. So I improve my bishop, keeping pressure on the knight and stuff. Though I am kind of pressing this knight to take this theoretically good square right here. Over here at e2, knight e2 is a good move. He should be figuring out a way to get this knight to d2 as well, to give him a slightly better king side as well, because his king, his king side's fairly open. It's got some luft to get out of check, but yeah, it needs a good barricade. Pushing his pawn up more. What is he trying to do here? I mean, if he exchanges that pawn, it's just a simple advantage in position for the knight, for my knight over here, for black. That's interesting. Maybe he wants to kick my bishop back to choke my queenside pawns, so I can't attack with them. That would be a good idea if it actually ended up being the winning line of the game. But no, that wasn't the idea at all. He's pushing this pawn up and stuff, really trying to disconnect to pieces of my queen side, making my attacks weaker, which is what he should be doing. And he's doing this in the center too, where most of the action's still happening. The center is not locked up. We should still be duking it out. I mean, still move 14, or sorry, a line or pair of moves 14. Though it's probably like move 20 something. It's still pretty early in the game. I'm still playing the center here too. I brought the knight here to the center square, and making a pretty innocuous threat against this pawn and stuff. Because if I take that pawn, it could really ruin the game for me. He's got the advantage of material. It's just that his pieces are not so active. I'm safe from his pieces, so I can do that. If I were to do something else, it's pretty distracted. I'd just be, adding more support to the center pawn right here. I don't think about opening up lanes for rooks because that's slow. I could still do things with my bishop here to make him weaker, and I have my knight here to help make him weaker too. This knight, going back to the theory, does not have an outpost, but it's safe. And yeah, that's some more reasoning for why I played knight e7. Um, Now, if white wants to take my black pawn, he shouldn't be doing that because pawns like this with my king side all the way over here, the king side kind of moved a little bit more by a few squares. These are basically my giveaway pawns. This is where I get piece mobility to really do some harm. He's playing his knight more towards the rim. This is a horrible, horrible way of mobilizing your knight. He shouldn't have moved that knight in the first place. Looking at his moves, instead, what he should have done is... something like it's called knight d2. That wouldn't have been bad. And he can't castle anymore, which slows him down. You could fianchetto to activate the bishop too, even though it's towards the rim. Even though it's towards the rim, it's beaming down towards the center files. Wait, where's my retry button? Yeah, that's marginally better, according to the computer. In these situations, the computer is accurate. And that would be protecting the king side more too. By playing the knight towards the rim, he's misdirecting his pieces. The direction of your pieces is very important because it can't be. It's part of the decisive factor in whether you're playing in a focused way or not. And you can be focused all you want as long as you're doing attacks that are, grounded, safe, and not making your king side weak. So, bringing it back to my perspective, playing as black, I know I can give away my queenside pawns because, it's going to make my rook more active and stuff. Even though the position kind of favors white here by a little bit, I still have lots of attacking material. Instead of taking that pawn, he just plays a knight at the rim like we were just talking about. I bring the bishop all the way over here to a safe square, kicking around that knight. Not really the best move. It's like, honestly. He would be getting an outposted knight for that onto the 5th rank, where it's very offensive. His only mistake would be hanging this pawn. It doesn't really, it's not really bringing me towards my next objective, which is getting a line to mate now. Though, and getting a line to mate with a lot of material is very difficult because you have to really calculate deeply. And over here, he seeks to improve his king to a very poor effect. Yeah. Though he didn't bring it to the dark square. If he did that, that'd be kind of funny. Over here. Well, I get a simple advantage in material. I must have known what I was doing there. Sorry, I just woke up, and I kind of just woke up and did this video, so I don't remember everything about the game that I wanted to say. I was going to say 1,000 things, I forgot it. He takes the pawn, activate his rook at the rim, pretty distracted. And, his pawns are lined up. It's 2 pawns. Yeah, he's starting to read the writing on the wall a little bit. And he's starting to, be active with his queenside pawns. But he's late as white. So he's like 2-3 moves behind. Over here, I just want more room for my king because he can, you know, with this bishop, he can get some piece activity to really do some damage. So I'm just adding some lift for my king here. I'm not trying to give away my knight. I'm not, you know, because that would effectively be what I'm doing. I'm not trying to continue to attack here. I'm using the extra time I have, that advantage in tempo, to just add more Luft for my king. Which, now, Luft is a German word for air. So, that, for people who are watching who don't know, like, the chess lingo and stuff. I was going to move this pawn right here at g7 to do g6 because I'd be choking off this knight. No. Now that the shift of play is going to the rims, I really don't want to do that. Doing pawn f6 would be innocuous because this pawn is really not in danger, and it's like as in danger from the other pieces, and it's still supported by the d6 pawn. Over here, I just want to kick the bishop back. I don't want him to have any positional advancement. This pawn is supported by the pawn in c6, so it's a safe kick, you know. And if I get that advantage in material now, you know, the game really favors me because I'm still pushing over here with my pawns. I can develop my rook and probably still develop my knight safely. Looking at the lines of play real quick. Yeah, I'm pretty safe to develop that knight because the white knight over here has a long way to do that. It has a very hard time to do it. It's hard to force that with all these other pieces on the board. And yeah, over here I'm stacking my pawns, but I would be stopping his pawn with a positional advancement for my knight, and he's also kind of pressed to undouble that pawn a little bit too, which he does. He undoubles my pawn, which improves my pawn structure and allows me to advance my knight, which I do. See, okay, so I was thinking there. Yeah, I'm pressuring this pawn right here, just getting his king side even more open, so I can start kicking around his king, and force it into this wall and get a bunch of tempos. Yeah, if you could kick around your opponent's king, you get a big advantage. It's very damaging. Though you don't want to have too many perpetual checks. I think you don't want more than 3 perpetual checks. You could end up not winning that way. So now he's developing his rook towards the center, which kind of changes the balance of material with regards to position. He's not really pointing out a weakness, honestly, because the d6 pawn right here could take his rook. I think he's just strengthening his king side right here. That's all he's trying to do. And I'm pushing the initiative with my queen side pawns towards his king, because if I get c3, then I'm doing pretty good. I'm giving myself time. Takes with his bishop here. And that bishop is hung, and it's pointing at nothing. He's not threatening the rook or anything. If he could take the rook at this time of the game, then he would have won the game. It's not the case. I'm just adding luft for my king here. He's threatening he's trying to threaten my king side, so I'm adding more luft, which is reactive, right? But it's still a valid pawn structure, and I'm adding to my king safety. So theoretically, I'm safe. And, you know, if you were to move that bishop to c6, well, I could take with my rook. And that's just a free bishop. If he goes up here and threatens my knight, well, I can still get control of the center, because there's no play. There's not enough play at the rims. There's not enough. He develops a rook to the center, pointing at a clear weakness. This is actually not a bad move. It's really not, because he'd be connecting his bishop too. He'd be he would be making the game very difficult if he took that knight. Though, it, I guess the computer sees I can easily get out of that. Um, so yeah, he would potentially getting a piece connection here, which is another theme I was talking about. Your pieces should be connected. Don't hang your pieces if you can avoid it. And trust me, you can avoid it. Oh, and then here, I get a check and a threaten the rook. He has to move out of check, and I could win that rook, I think. This, I mean, I buy myself time here, pretty much. It's just a safe fork. I'm hanging my knight. I can get my knight out of there. There's really no danger of me losing any pieces. King side is safe, because his pieces are choked, even though he has advantage of material. And he puts his king up against the wall here. That's funny. That's very funny. What does he do? Yes. No. King d2 would have been the better move. Because he should be playing his king towards the center. I guess he just didn't want to choke off his knight. Though, if he played his king towards the center, and he choked off his knight, then, shit, has the computer given up at this point? That's interesting. Here I'm giving away the knight because I have an open game with 2 rooks, so I've got piece mobility and speed to turn the game around. At this point, this hung bishop, it's not going to do anything. It's not. I could avoid that bishop all day with this open board, so I don't worry about that. And he effectively does nothing there with that. He's just doing nothing. That's the thing. He's doing nothing for his king side. He's doing nothing for his offense, his defense, nothing. Playing rook towards the center. I'm not going to pretend I'm really doing anything here. I'm just avoiding giving away the rook and supporting that weak pawn, because I want to have strength moving in. That's the thing. I want to move in strong, attack strong, defend strong. I need to be strong if I want to dominate. So over here is just a valid pawn structure. You got 3 pawns in a line, 2 of which are in the center. Delicious, sexy. Over here I win the exchange in the center, because I'm trying to promote at this point now. I'm seeing I can promote. He doesn't take the trade. I'm trying to pass a pawn here and thinking down the lines of play. Yeah, I pretty much got to pass pawn at this point. I'm over here. I'm threatening to make him capture towards the center, right? But I'm passing the pawn, and that exchange is going to favor me, and it's going to get me to the first rank. Boom. Over here, I get myself more time by capturing away from the center, so I get the tempo advantage. It's just safe to do, even though I'm not playing for the center. I don't want to play for the center too much, because I want to avoid the bishop trying to control this square right here. So that gets me off of that file. So I'm basically making the mental note not to promote at f1, and thinking down the lines of moves. He just traps his own pawn there, and yeah, and makes his bishop weaker. But hey, that pawn's supported, right? Ta-da! Those 2 pieces are working against 2 rooks. 2 rooks that can see each other, with 1 rook at the center and 1 rook defending the king. Yeah, that's not good. That's really not good for white. Black, even though his down in material, is better here. More piece mobility and stuff. Opponent has a weak king side. Yeah, black is doing a lot better here. And if I look at the bar, oh yes, black is doing better by a huge margin, negative 35.1. So yeah, the computer was wrong, because back then when the bar was so up high for white, it really meant that black was winning, because there's much more important things than center pawns and deciding who's going to win. Here I'm checking, buys me time, gives me extra piece, gives me considerable advantage in material too. And over here I'm forcing this king around, just making it weaker, making it hurt more and more and more. I don't care about mating because the game's safe for me. You know, oh, and now he thinks the center is knight after all this fucking time. He thinks he's going to win my rook, and that's really all he's thinking. He's not really thinking at all. Giving away this pawn to get safe advancement of the rook, closing in on the king side, making the game more and more painful. Is he doing? Oh, okay. So he's checking, he's getting himself a little bit of time, but he's down too much time. Getting himself time is not going to turn things around for him. He just has to avoid errors if he wants to get a good performance at all. Here, playing my knight towards the center, I can't take f7 because it's checked. Yeah. And did I say knight? Sorry. Here, I'm playing my king towards the center. Sorry, I said knight instead of king. Safely moving my rook, forcing the king around while he's really down material. His rook has too many moves to really be active, honestly. His bishop is the only thing that's fast here. Yeah. Sorry. Over here, I'm just miscalculating mate at this point with that move. With queen g3, I'm just miscalculating mate there. Yeah. And his king is safe, woohoo! But in terms of possibilities, the game really favors black. And it's m4 anyway. Yikes. Yeah, the game's really favoring black. But honestly, at m4, white could still turn things around if I mess up. So I don't think I'm safe and just try to force a mate there. No. And yeah, here I do the better idea, which is taking his rook. It's towards the rim, but hey, it gives you decisive advantage material. It's a safe end game. He's playing his king towards the center here, trying to very weakly and in a very futile way get control of the game and dominate, but it's not going to work. It doesn't work. Choking off his bishop here. Yeah. Choking off his bishop was not a good idea. And here, this was an accident. I wasn't trying to give away my rook, but I did. I'm just like, oh shit, what did I do? I just lost the game again. Yeah. The better move here, the move that I should have made, would have been to, I could check here. That's a perfectly fine move. I could do pawn e5 as well. That's safe because his king can't take it. Wait, no. Can I do pawn e5? No, I can't. Very ambiguous position here. here is probably anticipating that he's going to fork my rook, so I'm just taking over here and taking advantage of my safety. With that exchange, it's, I have a very decisive balance in material, though I really don't like the idea of giving away the rook. I could advance the rook to limit the king's lines of plays more with a rook c3. Though that bishop would slip away. And yeah. Over here, I'm checking at the center, forcing the king around. And now, at this stage of the game, it's all about mate. I'm very safe to mate because my opponent's already broken. His most active pieces are gone. His pieces with any real power are gone, which are important objectives. Though another way to win this would have been to keep those pieces choked, or to take advantage of the fact that they were distracted, because he did distract. I remember he distracted with his knight. Yeah. Over here is seeking to do nothing, just kind of waiting to be crushed. And I promote with another queen here. Honestly, I was lucky to promote again. Yeah. Over here, I'm trying to mate, but I know I need to force the king around and make more space for me and less space for the king. And that's checkmate. So walking through what I did in the simple way, I'm going to go to the Lucas chess evaluation. Going over the moves very quickly to talk about what happened and what theory I used to beat Nelson. Wow, it's taking a long time to scroll. Let me just... Okay. How can I flip this? Wait, oh, no. Okay. Over here, control the center, not giving away pieces with unnecessary sacrifices. Taking advantage of the opponent's slow development to get more choices to outplay him. Keeping strong, keeping control of the center, weakening the king side, and doing beneficial exchanges of material, and not giving up and switching over to the rims when I can still play and dominate at the center. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened here. And avoiding, blunders like, doing bad pawn structures and hanging pieces where it's really not necessary. You got to look through your candidates and then look through your candidate lines of play. Sometimes all of those will look the same, but if you look at the lines and the possibilities for the lines, you'll see outs and you'll start to see which lines favor you, which tells you what move to make first. And then, if your opponent does something unexpected, like they start playing for the rims when they should be playing for the center, or something to that effect, then, you just do the same thing. Though in your lines, if you don't want to think about every single line, just think about what your opponent should be doing. And you could also bring it down to thinking about the active pieces as well. Though it's possible that your opponent will battle it out for key squares to where you really have to think about whether you're endangering your pieces doing that too, which you should already be thinking about from the get. Um, and your positional advantage should mean that your material is safe, and that any captures will still lead to an advantage for you in terms of material exchange. Granted that material isn't hanging or playing at the rims where there's plenty of play at the center, or you know, granted that your pieces aren't being choked up. So yeah, that's how you beat Nelson with with uh, with theory, really. Yeah, you have to read chess books. I've been reading The Amateur's Mind by Jeremy Silman. That's a good book. Though I've read other books like how to no, not how to play chess. Bobby Fischer teaches chess, and Gary Kasparov Grandmaster something something. Though Gary Kasparov's book is pretty much all memorized lines of play. It's actually kind of it's really not that good in that respect.